Redditors who massively fucked up at work. What happened? I dropped a screw inside the engine, motor, of a TGV train. Oh god. We spent half an hour trying to catch it by moving a magnetic stick inside the crankshaft, with oil spilling everywhere. The engine was new and about to be mounted on a train that was supposed to run later in the day. I was so terrified I would possibly cause quite a lot of trouble, since no other train or engine was available. Shout out to my manager, who finally got that screw and definitely deserved his half a dozen of croissants the next morning. Controls engineer. Made a copy-paste error while programming, and a 2 was a 3. So one machine tagged at 3 was waiting for conditions of 2. So naturally the lift moved when it thought it should, and crashed into another machine. Course I'm having to stand there figuring out the issue, while maintenance is up there replacing busted parts. But because I've made 1,000 changes it didn't click fast enough and well, it happened again. Working the stockroom at Melwart, grabbed a Pepsi pallet with a forklift and didn't realize it was a short pallet. The forks came out the other side and through to the pallet of glass Coke bottles it was up against. When I lifted the Pepsi, the Coke came up with it and dumped the entire unwrapped pallet of glass bottles, spilling all that sticky soda on the floor. That mess was heck to clean up. However, the vendor had to eat the cost because that store's posted policy is that they cannot leave unwrapped pallets unless it is being worked. During the first week of my first job in animation, after I graduated I had to move a bunch of scene files from one server to another. The files were heavy, so I was told to just cut and paste them to make it faster. I accidentally put them in the wrong area and without thinking just deleted them. Went back to move the files again. They weren't there. I had forgotten I hadn't copied them. I lost 5 minutes of full animation. My longtime friend who recommended me for the job got in crap because his backups didn't catch the files and my direct supervisor worked for 21 days straight to help redo all the animation. The studio and everyone involved were way nicer to me about it than I expected. I kept my job and I bragged in donuts for the whole crew for a week after. But it was an awful start. Accidentally left out the move next method on a loop that sent out an ML broadcast, which meant it mail bombed the first recipient in the loop until we realized what was happening and killed the process. The CEO's email was the first ML address in the loop. He was an asshole anyway and was absolutely incoherent with rage when his Outlook crashed when downloading 15,000 emails inviting him to take a satisfaction survey. Good thing it was only a test. Years ago I worked in an office and had a very cool boss who was the general manager. He and I were quite close and used to joke around all the time. I had been corresponding with a fairly important customer overseas about an issue they were having, and I needed information from her to move forward. I asked for info a few times, but she kept coming back with different details than what we needed. I sent an email to my boss saying something like, "I can't believe I asked the same simple question 3 times and this is what I get in reply." Except I didn't send that email to my boss. I sent it to the customer. I was in a panic when I realized what I had done. Went to my boss to let him know what happened, and he thought it was hilarious, but that I should write a brief apology to her for an outburst. Was dreading the reply the next morning, but to my astonishment our customer actually apologized to me for not paying attention. Felt like I got away with murder. Slammed a forklift into a Camaro. A very important and very big customer placed an order for some chemical bulk to be delivered early January. Our contract with them stated that every day we were late we would be fined millions. The bulk plant finished on time and just needed the drums to pour the bulk into. Warehouse come up to my office. I was the purchaser responsible for buying the drums. Where are the 250-liter drums? Bulk plant need them. It's fine, I thought. I placed the order before Christmas. I remember doing it. Looks at SAP. Why is the supplier late? They are never late. Checks my order, mouth goes instantly dry and I start to sweat. I had placed the order, but I forgot that for this particular supplier I needed to email them the PO. We had just changed the system to allow SAP to auto email the supplier after we placed an order, but not for this one supplier. I knew this, but must have forgotten. These drums had a 2-week lead time from the supplier, so I knew I was dead. Not only would we have had millions of pounds of fines, but the production plant would have been put on hold, having to store tons of bulk with nowhere to put it. I went and told my boss, and just told him I had funked up. Being an awesome guy and boss, he thanked me for being honest and told me it's going to be okay. He called the supplier, sweet talked them, and because we were a good customer they allowed us to take another customer's order. The drums were delivered next day. That was about 9 years ago, and I still think about it. My first day working at a coffee shop, I left my Sharpie in the oven. Finally found it while trying to warm a sandwich and had to shut the whole thing down to be cleaned. It smelled like a chemical weapon. I worked in a pizza place and they caught me eating olives on camera. It wasn't 2 to 3 olives. I could eat like 1,000 in a shift. I really don't know why, and it's a time in my life I want to forget. Was promoted to terminal manager, and I was a dumb 25-year-old idealist. We had an essential employee, a mechanic, who kept our fleet of trucks running. At least that was his job description. Less than a month on the job, it came to my attention that he was a working alcoholic and his work on our fleet was underwhelming. My boss told me to fire him once we had a new mechanic ready to come in. I told the old mechanic that he should probably start looking for new work if he couldn't do the job. Word got back to him through the pipeline that he was going to be fired. I went to a bar with my assistant manager after working 40 days straight and low, and behold, the mechanic showed up. Long story short, the mechanic attempted to abduct me with his adult son and dump my body in a frozen lake. The whole thing became a large dramatic bullcrap event that put me in the hospital for a few hours and we both lost our jobs. I was new to SQL and accidentally mailed a list of people with deceased_date is not null instead of is null. So an entire marketing campaign was sent to dead people. That eventually led to our marketing tools being hard-coded not to mail dead people, which makes sense, but I was terrified when I found out. Apologies, this is long. This was my first real job out of uni, so I was early 20s. I had been working at a pharma company for a few months and a guy, Andy, set me up on a system that the whole company, 100k plus, used to catalog documents and updates on drugs we sold. My only job was to go though and find old drugs that we didn't sell anymore and change their settings too, that they were invisible to everyone, just to make everything a bit tidier. I had been doing this for 2 days when somehow I managed to set it so that the entire database was locked out to everyone in the company and I was the only person with access. Within minutes I was getting calls from people all over the world, all very polite, "Hi there, I'm trying to add a record to drug A and I can't make changes. I can see you're the admin. Can you give me access rights?" I was frantically trying to add people on, one by one, whilst screening my calls and watching as emails started flooding my inbox. I was panicking so hard, and just as I realized this was not going to work, I was added to a meeting about the system. It was literally me, Andy, and 3 senior managers. I was freaking out. I decided to just ignore the call. Stupid, I know, but I was like 21 and terrified. About 3 minutes in, Andy arrives at my desk. "Gray, we are in a call. Did you see my invite?" I act dumb and tell him I'm just dialing in, but he was very chipper, which made me suspicious. Anyway, I dial in, and the head of tech is monologuing about how he has been saying for months that this software is overloaded and how any minute it's going to implode on itself etc. And Andy is agreeing with them that this is the very reason he asked me to remove the listings in the first place. I'll listen quietly, and it turns out that they are all convinced the software did this to itself, and the only people who still have access rights are the people who were logged in at the time it freaked out, as opposed to it being just me and the people I had manually added in. As time goes on, it becomes apparent that they all think I'm some kind of specialist on the system. Andy keeps mentioning that I was working on a project for him, and they keep saying Gray can take care of this bit we'll flag this for Gray. Fortunately for me, I knew what they meant each time. It was like I was listening to a foreign language, and then, just when they spoke English, they assigned that bit to me. 3 days later, they had fixed the system, and in that time I had removed old users and finished removing the unused drugs, which they were still convinced was the reason it shut down to begin with. As a result, I got a bonus. I got a mention on the CEO email for assisting on the crisis, and at my end of year meeting they added the fact that I was an expert in this system to my job description. Not bad for a 21-year-old who was too dumb to process that clicking yes on a box marked do you want to remove all access rights for 100 plus users was a terrible idea. Edit. Thank you for my awards, kind strangers. I have had a lot of comments suggesting Andy was very well aware that I was the reason for the system implosion. So as a thank you for all the awards, I have messaged him on LinkedIn to ask if he remembers, and if that was indeed the case, will update if I hear back. I work at a jail. We have things called keeper parts to keep people away from each other since they may have conflicts on the street or otherwise. I accidentally let these two guys go into the same room together. Guy #1 is fucking massive. Guy #2 is small and, allegedly, killed Guy #1's friend. Guy #2 doesn't know Guy #1, but Guy #1 knows who he is and what he, allegedly, did. So, they go into this room with about 30 other people, and after about 20 minutes Guy #1 casually walks over to Guy #2 and beats the ever-loving crap out of him. Easily cold killed him. Luckily we stopped it before it got worse. But I still freaked up massively. Not related, but Guy #1 was recently killed by his friend when they were drunk and his friend accidentally shot him in the head. Now Guy #1's friend is in jail for murder. Mixed bleach and ammonia. Had to evacuate the restaurant. I was a nanny. A little 2-year-old I was watching fell down and hit the back of her head on the concrete. I rushed over to her, but she didn't move or blink, just laid on her back motionless. I tried to check for breathing and pulse and pretty much blanked on everything I'd ever learned in CPR/first aid training in my panic. She seriously looked dead. I screamed for help. The neighbors came running. I told them to call an ambulance. The police, fire department, ambulance showed up within minutes. She was rushed to the hospital and a million tests were run. Turns out she barely even had a bruise, no concussion, no seizure, no injury, nothing. The doctor said she probably just got scared and froze for just long enough for me to lose my crap. Her parents were charged $5,000 to tell them their child got surprised. The chef was angry that day. I was advised by my coworkers to do whatever it takes to get on his good side. I thought, I'll just try to avoid him. He was standing in the cooler taking inventory. Beside him were the 5-gallon containers of prepped food. I sneaked in and tried to quickly grab the ranch container, but in my haste, I nudged another. It was the French onion soup. All 5 gallons of it. On his pants and shoes. Yes, he was upset. The prep girl was upset. I had 10 minutes till lunch service started. I have no idea how I'm still alive. I work as an apprentice in a knit and printer repair office. We had a tech apprentice last year who finished his education and sent out an email to everyone, around 20 people including management, saying that it was his last day and thank you to everyone. We got along pretty well, we're around the same age and we both hated our jobs and how we were treated, so I replied with that God I wish that were me devianted comment meme. Realized an hour later I hit reply to all instead of reply and sent it out to the entire office. Almost crap my pants. Luckily no one brought it up, except 122 coworkers I'm on good terms with who found it funny, but God I wanted to die. I was a bartender. I knocked down the entire top shelf. Thousands of dollars in liquor. Eater I didn't get in trouble, the boss just built a stronger shelf. He found it hilarious that the only thing I saved was a $6 bottle of Slogan that happened to be on the wrong shelf. Accepted 20 fake $100 bills because I hadn't been taught how to spot fakes. I worked in a nice steakhouse. First week, I accidentally put salt in the sugar bowls and sugar in the salt shakers. Customers started to complain about their sweet steaks and salty coffees. We had to pull all the salt and sugar from each table. My last day as a waiter. Very first tech job as a youngin, and I forgot to verify if someone had backed up files before a cleanos install. Lost the guy's Outlook archive files with 10 years worth of conveniently stored and important email. Apologized and sheepishly turned the issue over to admins. Not me but my dad. He used to be a microbiologist and was working in a hospital with a tray of test tubes containing some kind of pseudo-rabies. He went over it and spilt rabies everywhere. He's an accountant now. I had an important meeting that could eventually lead me into a huge promotion. I kid you not, I zipped my zipper onto my pages after taking a piss in the bathroom and it freaking hurt like heck. Not as bad as that Ben Stiller movie, but trust me, it was not a good situation. I actually went to a local pharmacy to grab some Advil to hopefully ease some of the pain, just to get through the meeting. Edit, just to clarify, this happened in the bathroom at my office about an hour before the meeting. A customer got the best of me. I worked up a level customer service for an Australian winery conglomerate that shall remain unnamed. They owned a bunch of exclusive brands, but only had a team of 6 or 7 customer service reps to service them all. 2 of us got paid $1/HR more to be upper level customer service and take escalations, which is fancy talk for get crap on by the wealthy. A customer from their top brand made an online purchase, which we shipped immediately. He decided he was upset about that, as we should have read his mind and known he wanted it 3 months later. Anyway, he called me a rah, so I cancelled his order, his wine club membership, and deleted his customer profile. I was not let go due to them literally needing me to keep the department running, but my manager burst a blood vessel in his eye. Concessions at a movie theater. I was making popcorn, but I had learned that if we used a bit more seasoning and oil, the popcorn tasted insanely better. What I didn't know was the popcorn machine had broken earlier and wasn't stirring the popcorn anymore. So after I had made a new batch and no popcorn coming out, I decided to check on the machine and a hot glob of oil flew into my eye. Started cussing and screaming in front of a whole bunch of customers and got rushed into the back to wash my eye out. Not me, but I worked at a place that made wiring harnesses. Dude's 4th-ish day he's running the wire cutting machine. Suddenly says he's sick and leaves. Never came back. He absolutely messed up everything on the cut. What's sad is he wouldn't have been fired or even been in trouble. He didn't have to leave. My first day as a dishwasher at a resort, I dropped a tray stack with executive china. Chemistry teacher here. On my first day of teaching I set my classroom on fire after some unfortunate incident involving sodium, water and a glass tank. The problem was that the glass tank was too big, so the hydrogen gas got to build up to a decent amount. Then suddenly kaboom. The glass tank exploded. There was shattered glass everywhere and hit the students, who were all wearing safety glasses. A column of water grew from the glass tank to the ceiling and the ceiling started to burn. After a few moments the fire died out and the fire alarm was loud and I had to make sure all of the students were okay, which they were. It ended up being one of my funniest classes to teach for many years. The students absolutely loved it. I was a bit of a nervous wreck for a few hours. The worst thing in hindsight is all of the comments saying things like you started your career with a bang and stuff like that. I love telling this story. Back in the floppy disk, pre-internet days of computers, I was tasked by my job to do a software installation on board a Coast Guard icebreaker. I flew from Ottawa to Halifax. Then I caught a taxi to CFB Shearwater, from where a Twin Otter flew me 1,000 km north to a little town on the border of Quebec and Labrador. From there I was flown by helicopter to do an at-sea landing on the icebreaker. After landing I went down to the engine control room, where the computer was located, and laid out the disks. Disk 1, Disk 2, Disk 3, Disk 4, Disk 6. Disk 5 was still on my desk in Ottawa. Thank you for watching the video. Tell us your stories in the comments below. See you soon.